Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for Into the Deep Dive?
Always.
Today we're tackling a fascinating concept. Um, it's French. La confiance.
Trust, right.
Exactly. Trust, but with a certain je ne sais quoi, you know?
I like it. Adds a little mystery.
Right. And the source we're looking at, la confiance au-delà des mots, which by the way translates to trust beyond words, suggests there's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
Beyond words, huh? I'm intrigued.
Me too. It argues that trust is like this powerful tool, a strategic lever, a sign of power, and even something that can boost performance.
Okay, I'm hooked. But how do we really get beyond just like the surface level of trust? What's this source saying about that?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And this is where things get really interesting. One of the things this source emphasizes is that trust, well, it's never really absolute. It's always in flux.
Oh, I like that. So it's not just a yes or no trust kind of thing, more like
A spectrum.
yeah, a spectrum. Or the source actually uses this really cool metaphor. It describes trust as a kind of like dance.
Ooh, a dance, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more about this dance. What are the moves?
So the source breaks it down into these three like core forces that are always at play. The first one is predictability.
Predictability. Okay, so does that mean like always knowing what someone's going to do?
It's not necessarily about, knowing exactly what they'll do all the time. It's more about being able to anticipate how they'll react, especially in tough situations like under pressure.
I see. So it's about consistency, even when things get a little crazy.
Right. Consistency is huge
Yeah.
because when someone is unpredictable, well, that can really erode trust. Think about it, like if you have a boss who says, trust me, but then constantly changes their mind or makes promises they can't keep.
Oh, yeah. That would drive me nuts. You'd never know what to expect.
Exactly. It makes people anxious and hesitant to rely on them.
Makes total sense. All right, so we've got predictability. What's the next move in this trust dance?
The second force is all about alignment of interests.
Alignment of interests. So, like, everyone being on the same page.
Exactly. When everyone's goals are aligned, it flows. But when those interests start to diverge or when individual agendas take over, watch out.
Because things start to fall apart.
Basically, yeah. Like imagine a CEO who has this grand vision, but the board is only focused on short-term profits. That misalignment, it's a recipe for disaster.
Right, you'd get this clash of priorities and nobody would really know who to trust or what to do.
And trust would definitely take a hit.
Okay, so we've got predictability, aligned interests. What's the third force that shapes this trust dance?
This one's interesting. It's about risk exposure.
Risk exposure. So you're saying that to build trust, you have to take risks.
Well, think of it this way. Trust always involves some level of risk, right? You're putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, and the source argues that people who never take risks, well, they might seem cautious, but they can actually be the most dangerous.
Wait, really? Why?
Because they never fully commit, they never allow themselves to be truly vulnerable. So they might seem reliable on the surface, but deep down, there's this lack of genuine buy-in that can really undermine everything.
I never thought of it that way. That's fascinating. And it reminds me of this section in the source that I found really eye-opening. It's called Weak Signals of Fragile Trust.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
It basically argues that, like, real trust, it's not about what people say, it's about what they do. It's about these tiny cues, these subtle signals that we send each other all the time.
It's true. Like, who avoids making eye contact when things get tough, right? Or who stays silent when they should speak up, or who just dances around certain topics altogether.
Yeah, it's all about reading between the lines, paying attention to those little inconsistencies.
Those inconsistencies can be huge red flags.
Exactly. And this is where the source brings in the concept of Humint, human intelligence. It's all about reading people, picking up on those nonverbal cues, sensing those like emotional undercurrents. And it's really relevant here because it's basically saying that to truly understand trust, you can't just rely on words. You have to be able to decode those unspoken signals.
It's like being a human lie detector, almost.
Kinda, yeah. It's about being perceptive and noticing those things that most people miss.
And the source gives some really concrete examples, too, of these human signals in action. Remember that part about, like, a CEO who over-explains things that should be obvious?
Right.
They're trying to compensate for a lack of trust.
Well, like they're trying too hard to convince everyone.
Exactly. Or what about employees who are suddenly disengaged? Like they're not actively rebelling or anything, but they're just checked out.
Yeah.
That can also be a sign that they've lost trust in leadership.
So basically what we're learning here is that trust, la confiance, it's not something you can just demand or expect to magically appear. It's about creating the right conditions, understanding those three core forces, being aware of those subtle cues, and trusting your gut as much as the facts on paper.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, the source leaves us with this really thought-provoking question. It asks, when you're making decisions, do you rely more on evidence or intuition?
Ooh, that's a good one. And honestly, I think it perfectly captures the essence of La Confiance. It's this intricate dance between logic and instinct. Being able to read the room, trust your gut, but also be smart about it.
Can't forget about being smart about it.
Absolutely. Well, I think that about wraps things up for today's deep dive. But stay tuned, because in future episodes, we're going to be exploring some practical tools and techniques for actually building and assessing trust, all informed by this fascinating world of Humint.
Can't wait.
Me neither. Until then, everyone, trust wisely.